We're ready.
Cool. Okay, I'd like to call to order the City of Sumner City Council study session. The date is January 11th and the time is 6:01. I'd like to remind everybody yet again that City Hall remains closed during the governor's orders, consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the public has been invited to attend the meeting virtually using the Zoom meeting access code information found on our website. Let me note that all the council members are present, and we have 4 items under regular business. The first item under regular business is Degrees of Change Seed Internship Program, and I think I'll turn it over to City Administrator Jason Wilson. Jason.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we're going to get a presentation from Degrees of Change Seed Internship Program. I'll turn it over to Jeff Steffens to give a further introduction of Mr. Whitney.
Thank you. The city has historically hired professional level summer interns for our public works departments. They provide us with an added skill set of summer labor, and hopefully in turn we can give them a good reference or some experience in working with local government. The city has partnered with Degrees of Change in their seed internship program to kind of help be our recruiter for our summer interns this year. And with us tonight, we have Andrew Whitney, who is the Tacoma site director, to kind of talk about their program.
Thank you, Jeff, and appreciate everybody taking some time to hear about our program. Thank you to the mayor and the council members. I'm going to share screens here real quick and walk you all through just a brief presentation, if we will. Let's see. Go ahead and start. Can I get a thumbs up that we have a front page on a presentation here? Perfect. Okay. So again, my name is Andrew Whitney. I help run the Seed Internships program for Degrees of Change. We are, at a really basic level, an internship program designed to connect local students. And when we say local, we mean with a connection to Pierce County and local businesses that have a presence in Pierce County. Think of us as kind of playing matchmaker to that regard. So our agenda, just real quick here, we'll walk you through the problem statement that SEED is looking to help our partners solve. We'll talk about building a bridge, kind of how do we do that, a little bit about the details, and then announcing our partnership with Sumner and the couple interns that we're looking to send your way. So first off, our problem statement. College students, generally speaking, struggle to find local opportunities if they attend school outside of Pierce County. If you're at WSU, if you go as far away as University of Idaho or into California, local businesses are not recruiting you, despite the fact that you're probably going to come home to your Pierce County house during the summer and hopefully maybe find an internship. On the organization side, on our business partners side, recruiting, vetting, managing 18 to 22-year-olds is time consuming and costly. It pulls folks away from doing their day job. And there's a lot of duplicative efforts. City of Sumner, City of Tacoma, TPU, private sector are going out to all these different colleges and trying to recruit the same students. And they're taking away from their day jobs. They're going across the state. And we noticed a lot of duplicative efforts on their side that we thought, with our connections in the community and with local universities, we could help ease. And we also think of ourselves as sitting at kind of the intersection of talent and representation. We prioritize and look for students where they are. We try to find students where they are instead of the opposite way around. We don't just attend career fairs, we go and meet at club levels. I do after hours meetings like these to try to find all the students we can so that ultimately our intern pool has more folks who identify as female, more folks who identify students of color. Not that we're out specifically looking for those students, but we simply just go out and look as many places as we can. And at the end of the day, the talent rises to the top and we have our intern class. So let's talk about how we build a bridge, how we function as a program. We definitely leverage a lot of technology. We aggregate talent and internships in one spot. we build relationships with our students. Like I said a little bit earlier, we find students where they are. That way, we build a little bit of equity with them, so that even if they don't get an internship from us year one, which is the reality, there's simply not as many internships as we have applicants, we can go back to that well again and say, maybe you're ready this year. You took some learnings from last year and you can roll that forward, and we'd love to see you apply again. The other side is we're a small local organization that wants to wave the flag for our partners. We want to share the story of the city of Sumner. We want to share what makes working and interning at the city of Sumner a unique process. Acknowledging that, if there are students that apply to our program and the big draw for them is going to work at Amazon or Facebook, hey, go apply and do your thing. But we want to make sure that we share what would be really interesting about working, for instance, at Sumner, and why that would be potentially a good fit for them. We look at ourselves as kind of the flag wavers for our partners on campus when maybe they can't get on all the different campuses we can. The details, what are we? How does it work? We're a 10+ week paid summer internship. We have students that end up going and working at the organizations, for instance, the city of Sumner, and they'll work there, Monday through Friday, working on their hours. And every Friday, all the students will come back with me in a cohort model, and they'll work on different professional development topics. Again, trying to speed up their development on the job, taking what they learn with you all, bringing them together, letting them hear from each other, their wins, their losses, the ups and the downs, and then going back the next week and applying those learnings. A lot of the times it's amazing. They hear something from their cohort member that I've been saying or their manager's been saying, and it just resonates a lot easier. And then finally, we offer an experience for students. I'm not sure, some of you probably hear this from children, grandchildren. Nobody wants gifts anymore. They want experiences. I want to go somewhere. I want to take a trip. I want to take this experience in. We offer an experience for students, not just the internship that our partners provide, but also the development along with their professional development and the cohort model. And then finally, talent and exposure for partners. We want to create a sustainable pipeline of diverse local talent for our organizations. If you're looking for an intern, we want folks to think Seed internships. And for our students, when they go off to college, when they think about coming home, we want them to think about Seed interns. So how it works, we recruit college students with the needs from our partners. We hear what you all are looking for. It's my job to go out and find it. We had applicants last year from over 20 different colleges or universities. We're on track to be well above that this year. We then take all those applicants and we look at your job descriptions. We vet them, we put them through an interview event, and then we send you a top 3 candidate pool. So for the 2 positions that we're looking to place for the city of Sumner, we'll send up to 3 qualified candidates that have already been through our vetting process that will show up polished and ready to put their best foot forward. The next thing, is we offer a lot of ongoing support for students throughout the summer. In reality, we'd all love for the intern's trajectory to be up and to the right, where, the reality shows us that there's kind of some ups and downs. We want hand in hand with that development. We work exclusively with 18 to 22-year-olds through our college programs and through Seed. We think we've got a good place there to add some value. And finally, as I mentioned, the sustainable pipeline of diverse local talent. I'll wrap up here, if my computer will let me click over. There we go. With just a picture of our first intern class. And the fact that we've partnered with the City of Sumner, I'm super excited to find some GIS and engineering interns for you all. And recruiting's ongoing. We're moving real quick to try to wrap up our application here in the middle of February, and then our interview event is in March. It'll be virtual this year, obviously, but that's a place where we have the opportunity to invite some of our business partners and their associates or employees to attend our interview event and kind of see firsthand what does all this talent look like. See, what our recruitment, what we've been up to for the past few months, to really find you the talent that hopefully can help fill a need, and also, take away some learning experiences when they're with you. And finally, this is just my charge. Every presentation I make like this, every person I get the chance to talk to, even if it's not related to SEED, is, momentum truly matters. And my charge, my challenge is, what does advocacy look like for you beyond this room? Whether it's advocating for your city, whether it's advocating for your community, or perhaps if it's advocating for the future professionals that will be leading our cities and leading our organizations. How can you present opportunities to students from our local community, regardless of maybe where they're going to school or the situations that they're navigating? How can you present opportunities for them to learn, to grow, and to build the community that we want to see right here? I always talk to our students, and it's written on the wall directly behind our students there. I'm interested in all these students figuring out how to use their degrees to build the communities that they want to see, to build the more vibrant and equitable communities. Everybody can move to a good community. It's a lot of work to build the community that we want to see. And so I'm really excited to work with you all at the City of Sumner, to find you a couple great interns, and to get feedback too, to hear how we can do better, faster, stronger as we roll through our program. I'm always open for feedback. I want to be respectful of time. So thank you. My contact information's on the screen. You can check out our website, seedinternships.org. We shared an Instagram post earlier today with the City of Sumner Instagram page. And we were tagging each other back and forth. So we're on social media too. Truly thank you for your time. And I don't know if we have any time or we wanted to do questions, but I can hang out for a little bit if there are any.
Of course, we can open it up for questions. Thank you for the presentation. I've got a couple of questions, but I think I'll open it up to the council members first. Don't all speak at once now. Go ahead, Cindy.
Andrew, is this a new intern program?
So this is our third summer. Realistically, let's call it 2.5, because COVID definitely affected our program last year. In our first year, we had 15 students. We were hoping and planning on trajectory for a little above 30 for year 2. COVID happened, and then now we're well on track to be above almost 40 for year 3.
Are you associated with a higher education school?
Not directly. I visited, full disclosure, in our first year when we could travel, or last year when we could still travel. I visited every school in Washington except for WSU, and I would have went there if it wasn't for some scheduling conflicts. I try to work with any university that'll have me, because I'm just trying to find students internship opportunities.
So it's that the students pick you?
So the best way I can describe it is any student who attends a college in Pierce County is eligible for our program. Once we leave the county, the recruitment pool becomes a little bit smaller because we're hyper focused on finding our students from Pierce County. So for example, Gonzaga does me a great solid. When I go to Gonzaga and recruit, I have a few contacts there. I send them an Excel sheet. This might be a little granular. I send them all the zip codes in Pierce County, and they send my recruitment pitch to all the students who list a Pierce County zip code as their home address. So I know that my recruitment is hyper focused on those students, so that, if we've got a great student who went to, Stadium High School and they ended up at WSU, but they're coming home every summer, I want to connect with them because I want to connect them back to local businesses. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, it does. It helps me know a little bit more about you. So thank you.
Other council members. Go ahead, Barb.
So how is this funded? Do you get money from the City of Sumner or different businesses, or do the students, how do you run your business, I guess?
Yeah.
How do you survive, Andrew?
Yeah.
Yep. So full disclosure here, my background's actually in finance and investments. I worked for Russell Investments for 7 years out of college. So I'm all about helping and trying to figure out a way that we can fund our model. So first and foremost, we are a nonprofit. We do seek grants and other community opportunities for our funding. For the first 2 years, we were primarily grant funded. And to be honest, it was a lot of local family foundations that were like, this is great. You're trying to find a way for businesses to kind of grow internally. Let's see what you can do. As we've had success, we've been able to implement a placement fee model that allows us to have some skin in the game, but to also seek some compensation if and when we provide vetted and quality candidates. So for our partnering organizations, there is a $1,000 placement fee that is due upon when we provide you and you hire the talent. So for the instance, if a business comes to us and says, we want to do 3 interns, we send them, that'd be 9 candidates. Let's say they only end up hiring 2. The placement fee that would be due would be $2,000 because they only ended up hiring 2. For any business that works with us that does 10 or more interns, we do have a deposit on the front end just because of the amount of work that goes into hiring 10 plus folks. But again, that all just helps us try to run this program sustainably.
Then are you located in Tacoma, or where's your office?
Yes.
Or is it in your house?
Yeah, but I'm in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been working from home since March. Our primary offices are downtown Tacoma on 9th and Broadway. And yeah, we've been there, gosh, well, I've been with the organization 2.5 years. We've been there the whole time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then to add, the city would be paying the interns directly for 32 hours of work. So they're Monday through Thursday that they would be working for us. And then on Friday, they would be with Andrew, and that's kind of on their own, and they would not get paid for that a day of professional development.
And that's standard practice. The vast majority of our businesses do not compensate for the time spent doing PD.
Other questions, council members? Charlotte.
First, thanks. Jeff actually just and others answered a couple. I have one. I think there's a hybrid question for either Andrew or City, and that is, if we have 2 openings, why? What do we have 3? To me, that seems like an odd ratio in terms of like a candidate for like an interview pool of doing the students like. Like, have you guys encountered yet some like a situation where it didn't seem like any or just one of the candidates seemed to fit the mark, or fit the position, and the other 2 not so much? Like, hey, like, do you have a couple of others to recommend? Or I'm just wondering about the predetermined 3-to-2 ratio.
Yeah, so I can jump in a little bit there. So for the city of Sumner, we'll use you all as the example. There's 2 positions that are open or that we're looking to help recruit for. So we would provide 3 for each position, or up to 3, for a total of 6 different candidates. To be completely honest with you, the GIS and the engineering space, we're going to have a lot of really quality candidates for that. If folks want to see more than 3, that we can absolutely send possibly a top 5. Did I misinterpret?
I apologize. I misunderstood. I thought they were saying you send 3 candidates for both of the 3 total anyway. So 3 to 1. Okay. I have no question now about the ratio. I apologize. That was then my misunderstanding. I think it was either Barbara City's question where you talked about 30 to 40 students. Are those 30 to 40 students that you hope to have placed, or are those 30 to 40 to recruit and sort of recommend forward? But
yeah, so at this moment, we have 26 internships that we're looking to hire for across 7 different organizations. We're still recruiting businesses and have a pipeline to about 40 to 45 internships. On track right now, we have shade over 100 applicants to the program. In past years, I think last year we had just under 200 completed applications to fill approximately 30 internships. This year, we're on track to be well above 300 completed applications. We'll see. College students do everything the last 2 days, so who knows? But we're well on track to have a good swath, and we're hitting the engineering schools and the architecture, design, GIS colleges really hard to make sure, because we have a lot of need for engineers in the county, and we want to make sure that we cover as many bases as possible.
Okay, and sorry, I have two more. First of all, I love what you guys are doing. Like, it's great. With respect to, like, say, engineering, or if you're finding like a need in industries, do you guys have a plan to eventually like work more closely with schools to help recruit those types of students, so that you're getting those students into high needs majors?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, a big part of our program, I mentioned the interview event, is to help students as early as possible recognize career opportunities for them within the scope of what they're studying. For instance, a student who's interested in mathematics, right? Who perhaps because of where they go to school or their background, whatever it might be, when they think about mathematics, the only thing that comes to mind is being a math teacher instead of being an engineer or applying that elsewhere. We want to provide exposure to as many students to these opportunities so that they can make the decision sooner and perhaps flow into those high need majors. On top of that, I mentioned the student groups that we recruit with. Yes, I definitely work with the staff at St. Martin's and at WSU and at Gonzaga in their engineering departments, but I also have an in with the Society of Women Engineers at UW. And the different club levels to try to stay year over year in touch with the students, again, so we can find them where they're at instead of having to go kind of to a staff member and then hopefully get to students. We want to figure out our way to build relationships with the students, so that they know what they can expect from me. I'll shoot straight, and to just cut as many handoffs off as possible. We do recruiting. That's our thing. We want to make sure that we present that image, and to help businesses who need some help with recruiting and say, here's what we are, this is what we're not, and be really clear about the services we offer.
Okay, one more, hopefully it's a quick one. This is more a plug for the organization. Like, what other types of internships, so for like Sumner aside, what other types of internships are you looking for in terms of that students can fill, and what types of organizations and or businesses, what other ones are working with you to fill internships?
I mean, the biggies are any of the big four in business: marketing, accounting, finance, HR. They're our biggest applicant pool by far every year. And we always have a ton of opportunity. Well, we don't have as many opportunities as we have applicants, obviously, right? But accounting and marketing are two huge fields that we have internships for every year. One that's a challenge, but for the right spot would be a great internship, is anybody on the pre-professional track, pre-law, pre-medical things where you need a credential to do the job. However, the exposure, unless you know someone, is pretty difficult to get into. So we try to plug any law firms that we know or any other places where we can get students face time with that pre-professional track. Organizations that we're partnered with at this moment, we have DP&C is an accounting firm in Tacoma, Tacoma Public Utilities, BCRA is an architecture and engineering firm. KPG, I believe I'd heard has done some work for you all. Let's see, I'm blanking on a few. Sprague Pest Control is one. They're doing an accounting and an HR internship. Brown & Brown Insurance, Multicare, CHI. Now I'm getting into a little bit of pipeline, but those are folks that we've either historically worked with or are back for year 3. Yeah.
Okay, thank you and good luck.
Thanks, Charlotte. Other council members, questions or comments? Andrew, what other municipalities, you mentioned TPU, Tacoma Public Utilities, but other municipalities, government agencies that you're working with?
Yeah, so I must commend City of Sumner for the pace and the transparency throughout the process of figuring out, is this going to work? What do we need to do to make it work? We've had ongoing conversations with the City of Tacoma this is year 3 now, to try to figure out what it would look like for actual City of Tacoma interns, not just TPU. That along with Pierce County, which our first year we ran into kind of a minimum wage standard there that we had questions about. But the City of Tacoma is obviously the biggie, as they're right up the street from us. And they do a ton of different interns. And we've got, multi-care, we've got TPU on board, and we're just trying to build the momentum. We had a good presentation with Jackie Flowers and Liz Pauley. We obviously signed with Jackie Flowers, and we're continuing to work. I'm all for the long game. I'm all for prove the value that you bring. But any thoughts and prayers, fingers crossed for us in our next conversations with the city of Tacoma would be helpful. That said, I'm thrilled to be recruiting for Sumner because, to be frank, I think the smaller organizations have a lot to offer for students. You get a lot more exposure, a lot more face time. You're not just one of 50 interns, and you get to meet and deal with professionals who often live in their community too, which I think is, a great process of this. Mayor, I did do some background in you and saw that you are a former city employee. Am I putting myself out on a limb?
Well, no, you're not putting yourself out on a limb. I'm a former City of Sumner and Tacoma employee.
Okay, there we go. Glad.
And so I feel your pain, having worked for both. Back when I worked for them, they worked faster. But I remember one quote one of our employees came out with is, "The wheels of government work slow but exceedingly fine." I'm not sure if that's really the case here, but I'll use it as their reasoning, or maybe as their process anyway, to the degree that I can talk to anybody there and move things along. I'll try, but after you've been gone for a certain period of time, you don't exist. So that's just the way life is. One other thing, looking what Jeff put together here, you're looking at career development and programming to and reaching out to underrepresented students, and so looking at the fact that you've been here for 2.5 years, and you've gone through X number of students' success. I mean, in terms of underrepresented, community members.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I wish I could pull this up real quick. I think I shared it in my prior presentation. Forgive me for not including it, but we have a nice overlay of two graphs that show our applicant pool demographics and our hired interns demographics. Approximately just over 2/3 of the students who apply to our program identify as women, and just under 2/3 of students who apply identify as students of color. I probably don't have to tell you the students of color demo, that's far and above what is actually enrolled at colleges. And that's just a testament to us going out and trying to find as many students as we can. The great thing that I always, I make sure to include both of those graphs is if you take our applicant pool graph, and it's a basic bell, and you overlay that onto our hired applicant pool, the bells almost perfectly overlay, because at the end of the day, talent is equally distributed amongst Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Pacific Islander, male, female. And it's just about us to go out and find the talent and put them in front of folks. So at the end of the day, talent rises, talent wins out. We just simply have more folks who identify as students of color, so they end up getting more internships.
Well, thank you. I tell you, I really appreciate what you're doing and your approach. Many years ago, when we were looking at trying to increase diversity within Tacoma Public Works, we actually had to make a trip across country to various schools, to look at applicants for Black and brown, students. And, here you're taking it on here locally and doing that. And I really commend you. And I look at $1,000, when hired is a bargain, for what you're doing, both for Sumner in terms of looking at qualified candidates and the community. It's incredible. So I hope more people in the public sector take advantage of it.
No, I appreciate the kind words. And again, very thankful for the opportunity to speak with you all. I see a couple hands, so I'm going to go mute again.
Yeah, I'm going to just, Jason might have a clarification before Barb. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, Andrew, would you mind just giving us a quick elevator speech of what Degrees of Change is? Because the SEED internship program is a program of a larger organization called Degrees of Change.
Yeah, absolutely. So The degrees of change, think of them as kind of the umbrella within the program that is SEED. The other programs, Act 6, which is primarily a leadership development scholarship. Degrees of change charge at a really basic level is to find and develop young, local, diverse leaders. We do that in twofold. One is through our Act 6 and Act 6, which is our college placement scholarship program. Forgive me, that's not my program, so I'm trying to remember all the details of it. But we take local budding leaders from Pierce County and South King County, find them their senior year in high school, put them all together in a room, put them through team building activities, get a couple essays from them, and they apply to one of 5 of our partner colleges, Gonzaga, St. Martin's, PLU, I'm blanking on the others, Whitworth College, and there's one more in, I believe it's Yakima Valley. And we send those students, 8 of them each year, off to college, full ride or full need scholarships, with the idea that they go to college, learn as much as they can, bring those degrees home, and apply them here in their home communities. Where SEED comes in, and we talk about having something to come home to, it's a lot easier to come back home if you know that there's a job for you, or at least there's an opportunity. We can't promise jobs. I'm not in the business of absolute statements, but what we can try to promise is exposure for the students to these businesses, and businesses exposure to the students that are right in their backyard, regardless of where they go to school. So SEED looks to do that through internships. Act 6 looks to do that through college degrees, and Degrees of Change as our overarching organization, is the data and the operations behind really making sure that we have everything we need to run our programs. Act 6 has been around, 18 years now. SEED is going on year 3, and we hope to be building and scaling just as much as they are. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks for asking clarification there, Jason and Andrew. Barb?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what age level are you looking, like juniors and seniors, or do freshmen get into these internships?
I tell all students, all grades apply. For the most part, reality, right? Juniors and seniors are the most qualified. But the way our interview event works, I try to interview as many students as I can so that I can provide them. One of the features of our program is we provide direct interview feedback in the moment. So we're going through the interview and you're tapping your finger, or you're saying 27 times, or you keep telling like, I don't have any experience, but here's what I can do. We give you that direct feedback and say, hey, this is perhaps a better way to answer that question. Again, that allows us equity to have some students who hear that feedback and want to come back for year 2 or year 3. I'll say maybe 80% of our interns in prior years have been upperclassmen and above. The nice part of our program is because the FaceTime we get when I do discover a really talented freshman, I can advocate for her. And I can try to get her to Multicare, where Multicare says, I just want juniors only. And I send them Madeline, a freshman from Babson College. And she comes in and interviews against 3 juniors, and she gets the offer after her first year. We just want to present the opportunity. It's up to the students to kind of carry the torch across the finish line.
Okay, good. Sounds like a great program. Thank you.
We try, thanks.
Okay, any other comments, questions? I don't see any. Well, Andrew, again, thank you. Bless you, and great program. Just having been involved in the past, for you and your agency to come in and do this as a service, for either a private company or for a municipality is invaluable. And so hopefully you can get some larger governmental clients. And although right now, frankly, I would prefer that you don't, so that we can get the best talent possible, coming here to Sumner. So, their loss, our gain. But from an overall representation standpoint, it would be nice to get more involved from a municipal standpoint. So absolutely. I can always throw a jab out or two if I run into the appropriate people.
The bigger organizations want to be like us anyway, so that's okay.
There you go, Patrick.
I did mean to plug this in my presentation. Sorry to take up just a couple more minutes. I do remember hearing from Jeff and the others when I was initially meeting and having a conversation with them, the business base that's within the city of Sumner. I have no idea what it looks like, but if there's an opportunity to share us as a resource with other businesses that are operating in Sumner, please feel free to plug us, share my contact information. I'd love to be able to just have a conversation with more businesses. We're recruiting them through February. So if you know folks who, historically, hey, we're tired of losing talent to King County, or we're tired of, the difficulties of recruiting, please feel free to share my contact information. I'll drop it in the chat, and Jeff, they also have it. But sorry, that was a lot. Thank you all for the time this evening. I really appreciate it.
Entirely appropriate for the plug, and it's entirely appropriate for us to try to help. So there are some other entities out there. I thought of one, and I won't mention it here, but we'll get it to you later on.
Thank you.
Okay.
All. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Take care. Be safe. Okay, with that, we'll go on to Operations Center update. Jason, do I turn it to you? Or are you going to flip it to Doug? Or you're on? Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm here to give you an update on the shops facility, our Operations Center. Get to my. Okay, there we go. How appropriate that the wheel of death is now turning. Oh, there we go. Okay, Doug Beagles, City of Sumner Development Services Director. Give you a update on the operations facility. As council is aware, we purchased 4 properties off of 29th and 142nd, identified here in this red boundary area. Total living of approximately 6 acres. The City of Sumner hired TCF Architect in June of 2020. And since that time, we've had 3 virtual workshops with folks from shops, parks, police, cemetery, and City Hall. And the first workshop that we had was getting the information to TCF so they understood the existing work that had been done on the needs assessment that we had done. And also to listen to staff on what they were looking for, some things that were very important to them. And so TCF went back and developed a design layout for that. So the second workshop was continue with those same groups and put this draft layout in front of these folks and ask for comments and feedbacks, which we were able to get from all personnel here. So there was a lot of participation from each of those groups, a lot of good ideas, a lot of questions. So when we came back to the third workshop, which was a culmination of all those comments and the design draft layout that TCF had come up with. And this is it here. So on the left-hand side of the page is 142nd, the top of the page is 29th, and the right of the page is the residential neighborhood just to the east of this property. So here in the blue is Building A, which is our crew and admin building. West of the building is the employee parking lot. 3/4 of that area is identified for employee parking. And the portion to the north of that is visitor parking. And then you have Building B, which runs along 29th, which is for vehicle storage. Building C below that is for shops and vehicle storage. D is for fleet and wash shops. Area E is Building E is for vehicle and equipment storage as well. And F, which runs along the development, is for vehicle material storage. And then down at the bottom of the page, Building G is for the police storage facility. The other thing to note here is right next to Building E, there was a need to have a ramp up and down so that staff was dumping garbage down into a dumpster instead of lifting it up, which was really important for them. And that was vetted out through the workshop and was really a need from the group that does that work. So we were able to put that next to Building E here so that we have 4 dumpsters identified, and we can separate the material easier and plus have a safer environment for staff to drop those down in. So one of the designers, the main designer for TCF Architect, is somebody that has a long history here for the city of Sumner. His grandmother lives in the city of Sumner, and he remembers as a kid coming to the city of Sumner, and he's roughly in his mid-30s. So he was really inspired by working on this project and taking what he thought was the rich history and the farming and agricultural, the warehouse buildings and the adjacent neighborhoods, and tying this into this design that he came up with, which I thought was a unique opportunity for us to have somebody that had some history within our city. So this was his massing of the diagrams. So you have a typical warehouse and you have a typical residential. So the view of our administration building has the typical residential on the south on each side with the warehouse feel in the middle. The typical agricultural building has these a barn style with these enclosed ends, but also they took inspiration from that to create these shop buildings, as you see here. And the same kind of logic went through with the common storage shed to our vehicle and material storage shed. Taking these all into consideration, and being an architect, this is what they've come up with. So this is an aerial view of the site. And as you can see, on the left-hand side of the page is 29th Street. The development is to the top left of the page. And you can see the administration building here with the 2 gable ends with the flat rooftop to incorporate the housing development as well as the industrial roof style. As you can see, there's a gated entrance for our employee parking here and visitor parking. And then you walk along the frontage of this to the east end of the building for our entrance. The other thing to note here is that our fence entrances are set back off of the right-of-way quite a ways so that you can actually stack a truck and a pup there waiting for the gate to open so you're not impeding traffic onto 29th. So we have room to do that. This is a frontal view of the administration office. And again, it's the employee parking lot's behind the fence. This is our visitor parking, but it has a pergola style overhead and then has a wood grain facing on here to break up the frontage of the building. One thing of note here is that this sidewalk will connect the development to the left all the way to 142nd Street, which will then create access for those citizens that live there to take their bike, walk safely, and go all the way down to 24th Street and access our trail. So it's very important that we identify this as a connectivity to those activities.
Doug, before you go on, in terms of sidewalk, we're constructing it obviously for our frontage. Is there missing links other than our frontage that we're also constructing to make it connect to 142nd, or is it already in place?
It's already in place.
Okay.
We're filling the gap.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so this is a view from the inside looking out towards the administration building there on the left, but we followed that pergola design here along the edge of the building. And then we brought in these wood accents, and this area here where this wood accent is the common area, and it's right adjacent to the kitchen area. So you could see staff having lunch outside. There's an opportunity for them to sit outside as well as easy access to their crew operations facility buildings. What we've done here, what the architect did here is, as you can see, these poles that are holding up the roof line, they brought those outside of the CMU wall, which that CMU wall is anywhere from 10 to 12 feet tall. And it allows us to follow the design guidelines of breaking up the frontage. Not only do we have landscaping here, but we also have these trellis opportunities to have some vegetation grow up on the side of the brick wall instead of just having a brick wall for them to look at. And one thing to note here is that we had a meeting with Scott Waller to make sure that we were following our design guidelines. And in his opinion, we far exceed our design guidelines and expectations from a planning perspective, which is something that we were trying to do as well. This is looking at the easterly end, looking west, just to give you a view of what this is going to look like to, the private citizens that live in that development and driving by looking at this. There is a fence on the left that goes from the back of the building to the development, but we took that out because we wanted to give you the visual of how much vegetation is going to be in that buffer area there from our facility to the development. There was some concerns early on about how we were going to handle that, what it was going to look like. We got some comments on Bang the Table page. And again, this block wall is anywhere from 10 to 12 feet high. But this is actually a rendering showing the landscaping plan. We actually have more landscaping that we will be providing than what is shown here. This rendering is, a opportunity for you folks to see what it would look like from the inside, from a shops personnel staff member that works out in the shops constantly. CMU wall up, and then metal buildings, and these are all pre-manufactured buildings. So we're reducing the cost of that by having those pre-manufactured buildings. One of the comments that came back that has not been installed here is that the shop personnel want the first 3 garage doors paneled instead of glass, because of the opportunities for those to break a lot easier than the panels. You still get the amount of daylight that they were trying to capture, the natural light coming through there. And again, just another rendering of what the interior looks like, what some of the wall features look like, the access doors, and
Nice touch with the leaves.
Yeah, you like that? This is obviously done in the fall.
Yeah.
And again, the overview here is, way in the top back left or top middle of the page is the police material store, impound vehicle and storage area. And again, all these buildings here with the frontage on this on the 29th to give another view of what that's going to look like to the citizens that are driving to that development. So this is the administration building here. And as you walk along the frontage here, this is your entrance here, the main entry right here. This is our administration side. We have 2 offices in front. We have a workroom, and then we have a large conference room. And we also have a map room, which is extremely important to this group because they have historical maps that identify a water service that we would not know where had we have not had the actual paper copies of this. And then you have the operations resource room, you have an operations conference room, you have a parks conference room, parks resource room, and all of those all of those walled in areas are dividers that would open up for a large space as needed for training, for example. We have a bank of offices along this front, as well as a couple conference tables in here. You have a restroom up front, restroom in back, and then we get in the back, and this is where that pergola patio that I was showing you, this is the kitchen. And then back in the very back, you have the men's and women's locker room in the very end of the building. And again, what was really important was to get input from staff that actually will be the end users of this and buy-in of this design. I have yet to hear a negative comment about this design that the architect has come up with, other than, you know, can we put another office here? Can we put another phone booth here in case somebody has to go back and have a private conversation with somebody? So it was very limited to the comments. So the design charrettes that we had worked out really well, and people's input was heard. This just give you a ground level bird eyes view of the plan view. Looking at this, and this is the operations facility in the middle, or excuse me, the admin facility. Just to kind of provide a little context of what that is going to look like. This here is the shops and vehicle storage. And as you can see on top here, this has been broken out: water, sewer, water, storm, signal storage. All of this was very intricate of how folks wanted the flow of their work day to go. So this is all input from staff that actually is on boots on the ground and how they wanted it laid out. This took a little while because we were moving parts and pieces around. Then they think about it a little bit and they're like, no, that doesn't make sense. We need to do this over here because if this person has, you know, a sign and they want to be able to fabricate it, and, you know, so it, this was kind of interesting to see how these folks were interacting together and coming up with a design that made a lot of sense to the entire group, not just to one section. So here's the preliminary cost is $33 to $37 million. And this is an all-inclusive estimate to include site and building construction, construction management, shop equipment, office furnishings, technology systems, utility fees, and permitting fees. Currently, right now, where Mike Dallum and I are, we are investigating the cost that the architect have provided to us. And we are having a peer review done by another firm to check the cost associated with this, because when we saw this number, we choked, of course, and then we pushed back, and then they came back with a little bit lesser of a number. But what had happened was, right when COVID happened, all the projects' dollar amounts were way lower. And then the construction came out of COVID because they realized they could still do the work, and then the dollar numbers shot back up again. So we're waiting for that peer review to be done at the end of this week, and then we'll analyze that data and take some of those comments and move them forward to our architect. And so that's where we're at with the preliminary costs. But I wanted to let you know that this is what we're seeing to date. And our next steps is we're going to provide a public outreach, hopefully in the first quarter of 2021. And we've already submitted for our conditional use permit. And then what the next thing that council will see once we decide on a dollar amount for the cost of this is a contract amendment for the final design and construction phase from TCF Architect. And then the other thing that we're doing is we're finalizing a financial plan for construction and long-term debt issuance. So that is the end of my presentation.
Thanks.
Questions? Yeah.
Thanks, Doug. In terms of cost estimates, if you look at the situation that Sound Transit's in, with all of their projects, and both for Sound Transit 2 and 3 and the housing industry and everything else, construction is booming. And so it'll be interesting to see what your peer review comes up with. But, it's going to be what it's going to be when you go out for bid on the dang thing, and you don't want to we don't want to put ourselves in a hole either. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what it turns out. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a couple of questions here. One, does this anticipate freeing up some office space at City Hall? Is anybody planning to shift to there from City Hall, or is it all shop to shop?
The mayor's going to move out there because it looks really nice.
No, there is, at this time, there is no movement from City Hall to the shops facility.
Okay. And then I noticed there's quite a bit of meeting space available. Is that something that's going to be auxiliary meeting space for the city as a whole, or does that anticipate being used pretty frequently?
We haven't discussed that. Certainly something that we should probably think about.
I was just curious because I noticed there were, I think, 3 different meeting rooms. And I know sometimes, for example, when we have conflict on committee hearings or something else going on, we juggle a little bit. It's just additional resources. The other one is
Patrick, on that one, I think you raise a good point. I think during the daytime, if you start looking, remember we're combining a whole bunch of different operations out there. And so the need for them during the day, I think, is probably going to be pretty significant. But heck, after hours, there may be some opportunities that are available. So I think it's a good point.
Thanks. My other one is I recognizing the 10 or 12 that it's encased in 10 or 12 foot bricks for the most part. Is that I'm assuming they took adequate security measures in, not just for the police area, but for the entire property.
Yes, we're thinking about that as well. The 10 to 12 was to deter people climbing the wall, but we still have the space between the top of the wall and the roof line, for example. So we're
nooks and crannies, so to speak.
Yeah, right, exactly. We're looking at options there.
And two last questions on it. One is when it goes to bid, or when that's, and I don't think this is part of, I thought this might have been part of our upcoming resolution, but this is probably better here, is that we make sure, and I think it is standard now in our contract language, that there's addressing the minimization or elimination of change orders and setting not to exceed amounts within the bid process.
Yeah, Mr. Reed, that is covered in our purchasing and contracting policy.
Okay, yeah, I know we had made some adjustments over the last couple of years, but it's especially when you get to a project this large, and having been on the other side of the fence and knowing what they do with change orders, that's definitely would be a concern for me for the life of the project. And then the other one is with the old shop. Now, are we planning to surplus that property?
So there is a, Jason, you want me to answer this?
Sure.
Okay. There is we've done evaluation of keeping the southern portion of that shop area, which is, our material storage and maintaining that, as well as a decant facility there. And then selling off the northerly portion of the existing facility. And I'm in the process of getting an appraisal evaluation done on that as we speak, because we don't want to maintain 2 shops. We know that, and that we still need that area there for material storage, and we have it, with the property. So there is a need to have use of some of the existing facility.
And that's great. That's kind of where I was going with, is curious how much cost recoup we might be able to do with part of that property, but not fully understanding all of the needs that will be left when this new one's built. We're still going to need some additional space. So that's great. I'm curious to know how much what the valuation comes in on for that.
Me too.
And that's all of mine, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Other council members, questions or comments? Go ahead, Cindy.
is that, is there going to be a float barn? Will it be still at the old facility or will it be at the new facility?
It is allocated for the new facility.
Yippee!
The old facility won't be. Okay. Any other questions or comments from council members? Go ahead, Jason.
Just to dovetail with Ms. Hochstetter, not only the float, but also the Kenworth. That's been a long-term storage issue as well that we'd be identifying and fixing here.
But no GTO.
No GTO. We don't own a GTO anymore.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Doug Beagle one more question?
Darn right. Go ahead.
So when you were explaining north and south on the old shops, can you say that again? Because I was trying to visualize which part you were actually selling off. Can you tell me that
Sure.
again?
Sure. So the Fleet Mechanic Bay area, the Fleet Mechanic building, where you go into the entrance right where the administration building is, from just south of that north will be sold off. And that basically all the buildings and the infrastructure. So if I could, let me stop my share and bring up.
So Doug, as you go in the driveway, the stuff to the left and on up to, the street, it's going to be selling off. The stuff to the right, we're keeping.
Yeah, this might take a minute to load up here, but I will be more than happy to share and show you exactly where.
While he's doing that, like Mr. Beagle mentioned, we're getting the appraisal now, so that'll be a future council action and a decision on what to do with that property as part of the overall financing plan. But yeah, it's definitely a revenue source that could be used to offset the cost.
Okay, so can everybody see this right here? This is our existing shops facility. Here's 142nd. Here's the river. Basically, what we're doing is, come on, work. Not working. There we go. North of this line, right here, north of this line, we're selling off. We need the remaining southern portion as material storage, and we need a decant facility right here to handle some additional bad material that we encounter. So this is, these are the buildings, this is the administration, this is all the locker rooms, this is the mechanic bays and sign shop back here, and this is just storage of equipment. So this is what we will be marketing.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, other council comments or questions? Go ahead, Kurt. Oh, go ahead.
It looks wonderful, the plans. But I did notice in the northeast corner, there's a material storage. And I just hope that that doesn't bother the Donut Hole residents when we hear tractors loading trucks. The beep, 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 all that. But that's just a comment.
Yes, agreed. And this is probably a question that's going to come up during our open house. And our off-the-cuff response would be our hours are from 6:30 to 4. And if you hear those during off hours, that's due to an emergency repair. So they're typical business hours. And with the wall that we're building, we're hoping that the sound will bounce off of that wall. More of the sound will bounce off of that wall and radiate back in. We're hoping.
Yeah, other than that, it's very nice.
Okay, thanks, Kurt. Good question. Other council member comments or questions? Okay. Hey, Doug, thank you. And thank you and your team. It's, I know it's been a lot of hours, spent, especially with our operations staff, working through all the issues and questions and stuff, and done a marvelous job, coming up with, with the design that meets all their needs. That was a huge challenge, to work through all those issues between those various work groups. And congratulations on doing that and getting there. And if you start looking at, when the shops facility is like the Cadillac of all the facilities that we have out there right now, that's a really terrible thing. Because it is a sad looking facility, but it's nicer than what the parks people are in or the cemetery people are in. And that's sort of the state of the existing operations facilities that we have out there. They're terrible. And so, I look forward to this thing happening so they have decent place with which to work out of. Okay. That it?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go on to item number 3, which is golf course sale proceeds, White River restoration. And I'll turn it over to Jason. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm going to cover just some history before we get into the 2 specific resolutions, which are items 3 and 4 on the agenda. So going back all the way to 2012, the City Council passed a resolution directing the mayor to sell the Sumner Meadows golf course property. Later, about a year later, we actually entered into a purchase and sale agreement, so in 2013. After that, as we were going through the purchase and sale agreement process, there were certain things that the city had to do, conditions that had to be met. And we learned that actually there were several things that hindered the full development of the property without some substantial mitigation. And it also required some federal permits. So back in 2018, the city entered into a revised purchase and sale agreement with the original purchaser, which reduced the square footage being sold and the sale price accordingly. The revised sale price is $40,449,000. And with our fingers crossed, hopefully it's going to close as early as 2022, provided certain conditions are met. And the big thing that is delaying the sale right now is we're in the process of working through the Army Corps of Engineers permit to part of the White River Restoration Project. A little bit of also reminder that the golf course was a general fund asset when it was surplus. So any of the revenue that is collected from the sale is general fund revenue and can be used for government, any sort of governmental services. So with that, I'll get into the 2 asks before you tonight. As a reminder, this has been an issue that we've been kind of back burnering for several years now, because as a city council, you cannot bind future councils to action. But what we're running into is we have some major projects that we need to identify funding sources for. And it would be appropriate to use some of the golf course sale proceeds for those projects. And I'll get into specifics here in just a minute. The resolutions tonight don't bind future councils, but it definitely signals future councils that this was your intent at this time. And the future councils would then have the decision at that point to either follow that intent or find alternate funding sources for the projects that are before you tonight. So the first one is the White River Restoration Project. This encompasses more than 200 acres of city property, and it is comprised of 4 sub-projects aimed at achieving infrastructure improvements, flood protection, habitat restoration, and water rights mitigation. The total cost of those projects is expected to exceed $125 million. And that doesn't include the value of the land that the city would be contributing for those. To date, the city has been successful in obtaining over $38 million in funding from state and federal grants, as well as partner agencies. And we have committed over 20 million in utility and impact fee funds to the project. One thing about the grants is most of them require local contributions, and some of that can be covered through our already budgeted utility funds and impact fees. However, staff must start identifying other local funds to support various grant applications. Proceeds from the sale of the golf course are a logical funding source for the White River Restoration Project. The golf course is in the same geographic region as the manufacturing industrial center that the project protects, and part of the existing golf course will be restored to natural habitat. Further, the proceeds from one capital asset would be used to help pay for another capital asset or the restoration projects. What we're asking for is the resolution would set forth council's intent to reserve $20 million from the sale of the golf course to be used for purposes of local matching and or local funding of the White River Restoration projects. So with that, I can pause and take questions on that, or I could also go over the operations center and take questions as a whole.
Why don't we go and open it up? Kurt's saying he wants to, okay, Tuesday, 3, okay.
Perfect.
Keep going.
You just saw on the operations facility, that project is expected to exceed $30 million. This is also a logical use of golf course sale proceeds because it's one asset paying for another asset. Also, a lot of the restoration and street projects associated in that area are going to be serviced by the new operations facility. The proposed resolution would reserve $10 million from the sale of the golf course to be applied toward the general fund portion of the operations facility. As you may recall, the operations facility will house our parks, our streets, some police impound, and then as well as our utilities, water, sewer, and storm. So that project will be split across all of those applicable funds. One thing I would like to note out, as you can see, $10 million from for the operations center and $20 million for the White River still leaves a future council a little over $10 million to allocate it as they're choosing in the future. So it's not the whole balance, it's just 75% of it.
Jason, just for clarification, in terms of the operations center and the overall funding for that, I know that, part of our rate setting and stuff the council went through this year, they had money that was committed to that by the various utilities. Is there still a debt issuance that would be required in addition to the money that you're talking about here?
Yeah, and actually we would issue the debt for the full construction amount and then, do an early payoff with golf course sale proceeds.
I guess the question is, with the 10 million in the utility funds, does that make up the total funding of the operations facility?
No, you'll have a debt issuance and you have repayment from the utility funds for their portion. The hope
plus additional general fund.
Yeah, unless the 10 million is enough to cover the general fund portion.
Okay. Patrick.
There we go. Sorry, I had to get the mute. A couple of questions. One is for Cassandra. Well, actually, I'll start with the money. So this is essentially earmarking, but not encumbering, right?
Correct.
Because we can't bind the future councils until the money is actually in front of it.
This is just expressing intent, Patrick, resolution of intent, to move forward.
So basically just telling future councils, hey, this is what we want you to do.
Yeah, well, and really the purpose of that is to give staff some credibility when they go applying for grants, particularly on the White River project.
Got it.
And then on the operations center, it also gives, we're gonna have to go through a rating to issue debt. It also will look favorably upon us that, look, we've already identified a future funding source, not only just with the utility rates that'll help pay for it, but it also significant general fund asset contribution.
And my other question on the 40 million in change, is that the net proceed to the city after closing cost and everything, or is that pre-cost?
I'm hoping Ms. Marquez is on. There she is.
I'm here. We don't expect huge closing costs. So approximately 40 million would be the the net to the city, if not more.
Oh, okay. And then there's always the potential, especially on the White River, that additional grants will become available between now and the time the money's needed. So it could reduce the need there even more.
Absolutely.
And then my last question is a Cassandra one is, does she have to do numeric juggling to make this work for the auditor, or is this actually the preferred method to tie that, well, not tie it up without tying it up, I guess, basically.
This really is the preferred methodology because, again, we're not binding a future council, just signaling the intent and providing, as Mr. Wilson said, the backup for staff to be able to credibly say, here's what we are anticipating.
Okay. Great, thank you. I think that covers mine.
Thanks, Patrick. Other council members, questions or comments regarding either of them? Go ahead, Barb.
I guess for further counsel, are you talking like in a year or 2 years? Is that the, I mean.
The golf course is expected to close by 2022. Now that timeline is contingent on a number of different factors, including federal permits, which we cannot control. But we expect that money to be in the city's coffers in about 2022, but no earlier.
Okay, but you don't know what part of 2022.
That's exactly right.
December 31st. So, okay. But it's not really, we're not looking out, 2 or 3 councils from now. It's probably
We hope
next
not.
year's. Yeah, okay.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I think this sounds really good. I appreciate all the work and thought that's been put into both the shops and the golf course sale, the White River restoration. I think it's awesome. So I'm on board. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Go ahead, Charlotte, and then Cindy.
What can you guys remind me? What was the original sale price before Corps of Engineers? Before wetlands issues and everything else.
I believe it was approximately 60 million.
Okay, and I recall at the time, I think maybe like 5 million. Forget about the actual word, but was the intent, again, a similar situation where they were going to commit some funds, and in that time seemed fitting. It was for the Y. And so did the Y debts get paid off independently of this? Are there any other portions of this 40 million that has sort of like an intent or some kind of obligation associated with it?
No, not that I'm aware of. And yeah, we paid off the Y at the end of last year. So.
Okay.
I would say the only known cost other than your typical closing costs are that the city may still owe a commission to the broker who initially was involved in this deal many, many, many years ago. So that's the only known portion of the pie that would go to an outside source.
Thank you. And then I am wondering, the purpose is to help get grants. I mean, just because I don't even know that I'm opposed. It just gives me pause when we're talking about setting as trying to dedicate 3/4 of the funds without having a kind of comparative conversation about what other things are in need. I am wondering how much of a difference does it make, say, for the Salmon Creek and the river portion? What does that look like, say, if we were to say up to 20 million, our intent right now is to designate 10 million or 15 million. I'm just wondering, is there a phase that what are the impacts if we did a lower amount possibly still using that money. Does that set the city back in what they're trying to achieve?
Well, first off, I'll just start with, this is a very, very expensive project, and there's 4 of them. And some of them, like we'll start with the Stewart Road Bridge. It is imperative that that project continue at the pace it is in order for the golf course to close. Not only close, but if there are buildings being constructed on the existing golf course, they could not get their condition of occupancy until construction has commenced on the bridge. So it's important that we have money to solve that. Second, the other large project that is moving forward is the habitat restoration project. And I'm actually pleased to say that if the state legislature follows the governor's recommendation, we will actually have that project funded through PSAR completely, which is great. So then that leaves the 2 middle projects that are less competitive for grants, yet equally important to the overall restoration project that we get completed. So you could easily say up to 20 million, but 20 million is what Mr. Dahlin feels is necessary to leverage other funding sources.
Can we get more information on how that 20 million is divvied out between the 3 or 4 projects? Like how much of that goes toward the bridge? How much of it goes to others?
We can give you an idea of what is going there, but we don't know at this point. And that would be money as those grants come in, that you would know exactly how much of this money is going towards those projects. The goal, as always, is to minimize the amount of money, general fund dollars, that we put in these transportation and habitat projects. So Mr. Dahlin might be able to give you a little bit more feedback on that, but
Well, how
I don't know
about,
that we can give you the exact numbers of where the funds are being used at this point.
but we should be able to give the council, what the shortfall is.
Yes, we can definitely give you the shortfall. Yeah.
What the shortfall is in those 4, project areas. Because I get what Charlotte's saying. It'd be like, what if you came up with money here and you came up with money here, and we're always hopeful. Frankly, the feasibility of that and being able to cover all of it without shelling out 20 million, I don't know. I know that'd be a real challenge, but we should be able to get the council at least the shortfall on the bridge and on the 4 project areas. And so you have an idea of what that dollar amount is in relation to the amount that staff is asking that you set aside, at least intent wise.
We can easily do that. We have that available. I just don't have the numbers in front of me today.
And Mayor, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. That information would help. But also it helps us prioritize, because I understand in terms of like bridge completely, in terms of it also helps us prioritize like when that 20 million needs to be like phasing what is spent when as well. Anyway, I would appreciate just a little bit more detail on the lumped 4 projects together that constitute the $20 million.
Because I know on the bridge project, we have the timeframes that are tied to our agreement with Pierce County. $4.3 million that we have to meet. That means they has to be under construction by a certain time frame. Now we're hopeful to get TIB funding and maybe other grants, but we can't afford to lose the ground that we have gained, on those, because we have obligations to have that bridge under construction if with other agreements that we have in for other developments in the area. So
and I know what that project, Mayor, I appreciate the clarification, and I know what that project means to like development of the North End. I couldn't be more excited and pleased that is moving forward, and I don't want to do anything to hold that up. I also am not super comfortable just immediately saying yes to 30 out of $40 million. I just want to look and see if there are like how we're due. I would just like more details before I can fully be comfortable.
Got it.
Even though it's not an objection to any of these projects.
Sure. Sure, they can get that. We can get those shortfalls, I'd call them, in terms of funding.
Yeah, thank
Jason,
you.
you're
I
going to
was
say
like,
something.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful information.
So I guess my question back to council would be, are you comfortable with us just providing that at the regular council meeting when you're considering this? Or would you like us to come back with an overall White River presentation that goes over the cost and dollar amount of all these projects again? It's been about 6-7 months since we've done that.
Thoughts, Cindy? You're still muted, Cindy. There you go.
I guess I'm not quite ready to answer Jason's question, but I wanted to state that I really appreciate the planning and the foresight and putting all these moving pieces together. And I'm comfortable with what you've decided on taking these two high priorities and setting the money and the intention aside on with those. And I'm just hopeful that we'll have maybe the $10 million to do something that will directly influence something nice for our citizens, a little something more in the city, like maybe being able to put something more into roads or something so that they can notice that. But both of these other items are such high priority as far as protection of our manufacturing industrial zone. And so I'm in favor of it as it is now, but if you want to give us more education, I'd take it, but I'm good right now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Other council members? Kurt?
Yeah, I'm fine with this as well, but I know Patrick is upset because he wanted more play money. He wanted $40 million to build a viaduct to Orty. Are we expecting more money from the east side of the golf course?
This purchase and sale for the $40.4 million is all we're anticipating from the sale of the golf course.
No, on the east side, the railroad. Are we expecting more money sometime?
Sure, yeah, not directly. That would be part of the Habitat project. BNSF is a partner in that, and they'd be doing some work in kind and providing some materials.
So that's a wash.
That's anticipated to be a wash right now, correct, Andrea?
Correct. The details have not been finalized just yet on the valuation of the property that BNSF needs from the city, but it is expected that the value that BNSF brings to the project will end up being a wash for the property. We just don't know that for sure just yet.
Thank you.
I think that goes to what Charlotte was asking about in terms of what are those, if you look at this overall budget numbers and estimates that you have, what is the overall shortfall for each of those, for, major areas? I think it's a good question. And I think it's information we need to get to the council, because I think it's going to far exceed, the $20 million. Go ahead, Patrick. Patrick, you got to unmute yourself.
I was just going to say for Kurt, this is actually exactly right where I was hoping the money would go, is into capital and infrastructure projects, or at least maybe more so towards the operation center type project. But I also recognize the combination need of the restoration and the bridge and everything else, and those tying together. But I'm excited to see that money, not only what turned out to not be the best, the golf course being the best opportunity as hoped, turning into something that's definitely helped paying off for the city, because I don't even know how we could have afforded some of these things if that money was not coming. So that's great. It's great progress, I think.
No, it did. Yeah, it worked out, but I know you're sad.
I'm glad I muted myself. what I sensed is the council's comfortable with moving forward and considering these things, but instead of waiting, Jason, until the presentation to, get the council the information on the shortfall, could we do it sooner than that and just get an email out to the council so they have that information and they can digest it and they can ask questions of staff if they have any prior to coming up to the council meeting?
Certainly. I mean, this is a very significant major project, and you guys need to be comfortable with the funding source. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of moving pieces with this project, not just on the funding side. So staff has been working extremely hard to tie up loose ends and get this thing funded.
And I appreciate that last comment. In 45 years of dealing with stuff like this, this is one of the more complex projects that I think I've ever seen in terms of the involvement of the various parties, the involvement of the various utilities, protecting a huge industrial complex that we have, ensuring our future water rights. I mean, it is truly an amazing project, and staff has done an absolutely incredible job getting us to the point where we are. Amazing work. So let's do that. Let's get that information together and get it out to council. And then I appreciate Charlotte's question and stuff. It'd be the type of thing that if we could find money and stuff, and we didn't have to spend 20 million, I'd raise my hand if I had to vote on something like that and say, yeah, let's have more money to go to other things, but let's get some perspective on it first. And again, this doesn't bind, future councils. Okay. Wow, that covered a lot right there. We go from that to City Administrator report, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick things. Excuse me. Just a reminder, there's no meeting on Monday next week for Martin Luther King holiday. We will be having a special study session on Tuesday at 6 p.m. There will not be a regular council meeting before that special study session, just a one meeting next Tuesday. And then lastly, council vacancy, the applications are due tomorrow at 5 p.m. Once we have all those applications, we'll be posting them on our website, and I'll be sending you an email to let you know when they're up. That's it for me.
Go ahead, Patrick.
I just had a quick question before everybody heads out is I saw the scary report this morning. I don't know how on the weather. I don't know how much that plays into reality, but they're talking significant rain the next 72 hours, 5 to 10 inches in some areas, and especially the feeder rivers. Do we anticipate, or are they projecting any flooding for us, or is that just kind of wait and see type scenario?
Flood and river forecasts change multiple times a day. As of right now, we are anticipating very high rivers, but not flooding. This is anticipated to be less than the February event from last year.
Oh, okay.
And like most things on forecast, the initial one you have is going to be a worst case basis, and then they'll probably go down from there.
Yeah, they hit it pretty hard this morning with doom and gloom, and yeah, but the atmospheric river and all the details behind the Pineapple Express and all that.
Yep. Tis winter in Washington. Okay. On to agenda setting, other than what Jason just talked about in terms of council meeting is on next Tuesday, not Monday, so you can enjoy a 3-day weekend in the rain. Any other calendar issues in terms of either city council meeting or committee meetings? Cindy.
So I'm planning on, as the alternate, attending the CD committee meeting on the 27th in place of Melanie Peterson. So that's covered.
Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate you letting us know. Okay. Any others? Wow. Okay. There's no executive session. Is tonight the national championship? Okay, I won't ask who's in the lead. It started like at 5 o'clock, so you can all leave, or if you're watching it now, you can, disengage from this one and watch it directly. So, and I'll get out of City Hall and go home and see who wins. Okay, everyone, take care, be safe, keep dry. Okay, take
Good night,
care.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Oh, the meeting's adjourned at 7:36.